No. Don't close the door. What's going on?
Are
you Shaye?
I am Shaye.
Right. I've had some kind of strange, interesting call about somebody having had their throat slit.
Okay.
So what's going on here? You're under arrest on suspicion of murder. You do not have to say anything, but it may harm your defence if you do not mention when questioned something which you later rely on in court. Anything you do say may be given evidence.
You're watching Totally True Crime. Today's case takes us to Havant in Hampshire, in the south of England. It was the area that Shaye Groves had grown up in. She'd had a few struggles in her life. She became partially deaf and used hearing aids from the age of 11. In her early teenage years, she started to suffer with mental health conditions, and she was put forward to local support services to try to help her. She was diagnosed with bipolar disorder. There's conflicting information about when Shaye started drinking alcohol and taking drugs, but she disclosed on her social media pages that her parents begged support services for help. Shaye said that she would often manipulate the situation, lying and making them look like they were the bad guys. She confessed that she would steal as well, and she ended up leaving home in her teenage years. Shaye met a man called Ashley Wingman, and in 2017, at the age of 21, she gave birth to their daughter. Just before she gave birth, she was diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder. After their daughter was born, Shaye left Ashley and went to stay in a women's refuge. There was no evidence that he was violent towards her, but she needed support. Shaye had a gothic style. She had many tattoos across her body and face, and many piercings too. She would take pictures of herself in gothic style clothing, posing and putting them on her social media. It was at this point that she started to lean into a darker lifestyle. She had a fascination with killers, lethal weapons and true crime content. She started carrying a flick knife around in her boot, and she kept a Celtic dagger under her pillow. She also owned a ball-bearing gun, and she had axes in her bedroom. Shaye moved into another property, and when she was there, one of her friends, a woman named Lauren White, moved into the home with her. Court documents stated that Shaye was controlling and, on occasion, violent towards Lauren. It was claimed that she had treated her like a domestic slave, instructing her to roll her cigarettes, make her cups of tea, and even put her socks on for her. In February 2022, Shaye was on a night out when she met Frankie Fitzgerald, a 25-year-old father of two. The pair quickly fell in love and started a relationship. Shaye had installed CCTV cameras around her home, including in her bedroom, living room and kitchen, and she would often record them having sex. The couple used cocaine and drank alcohol, and Frankie used to call Shaye his, quote, dirty little whore, a name that she consented to. They both shared an interest in rough sex and humiliating acts, and this had been evident in the videos that they'd recorded. Frankie had previously been accused of being violent to his ex-partner, the mother of his children. He had a conviction for domestic violence, and he'd been open about that with Shaye. About a month into the relationship, cracks started to form. Frankie had seen a text message to Shaye from her ex-boyfriend, and he had refused to let her leave, throwing her belongings out of her bedroom. Shaye started to self-harm, and it was becoming clear to those who knew them that this was a toxic and volatile relationship. The abuse between the couple wasn't just violent, it was emotional. Shaye told Frankie that she had cancer. She also told her other friends this too, including her housemate Lauren White. She was given gifts, money and attention while she attended medical appointments and underwent tests. But the whole thing was a lie. She never had cancer, and it was thought that she did this to get attention. Despite this, the couple continued their relationship, and on the 22nd of March 2022, Shaye signed a sex contract in front of a friend of her and Frankie's, which said that she consented to him waking her up by having sex with her. There were times when they had filmed themselves having sex, and through some acts that they recorded, it was clear that Shaye was in a lot of pain. In the videos, she doesn't tell him to stop what's causing her the pain, but there's no pre-warning or consent obtained by her before he does these things. In a conversation after one of the acts occurred, Shaye told him that she wanted him to stop, but he didn't. A month later, in April 2022, she wrote 2 conflicting letters. She wrote one to her father, telling him that she was planning on taking her own life, and then one to Frankie, declaring her love for him. Shaye went to speak to a psychiatrist and told her that Frankie was a wonderful partner when he wasn't drinking or taking drugs. His jealousy was also a huge bone of contention in their relationship. He would become threatening and angry at her. He was especially jealous of one of her ex-partners, a man called Declan. Shaye had lived with him in the past, and they had remained friends after they broke up. In May 2022, the pair had been dating for 3 months, when the messages between them went from loving to violent and toxic. Frankie would ask Shaye to call him Daddy and to be submissive to him. In some messages, he called her degrading names, which seemed to be roleplay. In one message, he told her that he would, quote, snap her in half if she ever cheated, threatening to do the same to the person that she hypothetically cheated on him with. He also said, quote, cancer will be the least of your worries. When Shaye showed a friend these messages, her friend told her that she was genuinely worried for her safety. Later that day, Shaye went home and had sex with Frankie, an act that she recorded. Afterwards, Frankie said that he knew her Celtic dagger was under her pillows whilst they had been at it, and asked her if she intended to slit his throat. She told him that she didn't, but she had it there for protection. On the 30th of May, Shaye turned on the camera and agreed that they would undergo a punishment to be inflicted on her by Frankie. He proceeded to spank her more than 100 times. After 36 of those, she asked him to stop, clearly in pain, but he carried on. The following day, she took pictures of the marks that he'd left on her and edited them into clips, which she mixed with video footage of them having anal sex 2 months prior. It was one of the times where she was clearly in pain, though she doesn't tell him to stop. When these clips were edited together, it looked as though Frankie was inflicting non-consensual sexual violence on Shaye. The footage was conflicting, as there were parts of the video that did look as though Shaye had not consented to what was happening to her. The video was stored on her device, and they continued their relationship. The jealousy and rage continued to get out of control, and Shaye started to become jealous of the mother of Frankie's 2 children. She accused Frankie of preferring her and staying overnight at her house. They would look down each other's phones, trying to find evidence that they'd been unfaithful to each other. Frankie blocked Shaye on his phone because he was convinced that she'd gone out with her former boyfriend, even though she was actually on a night out with her girlfriends. Shaye told her friends that she thought she had a sexually transmitted disease from him cheating with another woman, and it was then that Shaye told a friend that she wanted to cause some serious harm to Frankie. Her friends told her to just leave him and that she was scared of Frankie hurting her, but Shaye couldn't, and her obsession with Frankie's ex continued. She would check her social media pages, make contact with her, and try to catch Frankie coming out of her house. On one occasion, Shaye turned up at the woman's house drunk, along with her ex-boyfriend, and dumped some of Frankie's belongings on her doorstep. The thoughts of Frankie cheating on her continued to consume her, and she became more obsessive. In June 2022, Shaye recorded herself having sex with her ex-boyfriend, and later that day, she recorded herself having sex with Frankie. Shaye continued to see both Frankie and her ex-partner. Shaye's 2 friends, including Lauren, who lived with her, helped her juggle both of the men. In one WhatsApp group chat, Shaye said that they would, quote, be dead girls walking if either of the men found out about each other. Frankie started getting lower and more depressed. He was obsessed with Shaye's ex-boyfriend, and he started to threaten her on messages. She threatened him back, saying that she would post the videos of their sexual acts online to ruin his life, including the one that looked like it wasn't consensual. Shaye took the camera in her bedroom down in July, but she kept her cameras up in the kitchen and living room. And in one conversation with a friend, Shaye was heard discussing a plan she had to have Frankie beaten up by her male friends. They were going to get him in an alleyway and cause him serious damage. Despite this, she continued the relationship with him, and on the 14th of July, the couple had an explosive argument. They'd both been drinking when Frankie took Shaye's phone and went through it. Whatever he saw on there made him become violent. He started punching the walls and he broke her bookcase. Shaye's friends told her that they were seriously worried about her, but she told them that she would be fine because she had her weapons and that she would use them on Frankie to protect herself if she needed to. The next evening, on the 16th of July, Shaye's daughter was staying with her father for the weekend, so Frankie came round with some beer and cocaine. Lauren, Shaye's housemate, was also there. Shaye and Frankie both tried again to get into each other's phones, and Frankie was also gambling online. He borrowed some money from Shaye, and whilst he was doing that, she was texting romantic messages to her other boyfriend that she was seeing behind Frankie's back, the ex-partner that he was obsessed with. Frankie discovered that they were sending each other's messages, and for the first time, Frankie messaged Shaye's ex directly, telling him to stop. But at 1:20 a.m, Frankie looked at Shaye's phone and discovered that her ex was messaging her on Snapchat. An argument broke out, and Lauren, the housemate, messaged her friend saying she was worried that there was a potentially dangerous situation about to occur. Shaye grabbed Frankie's phone and she saw a screenshot of a Facebook message exchange between him and a girl who said that she was 13 years old. What Shaye hadn't realised is that Frankie had blocked this girl as soon as she'd said her age and that she was actually 17. She took that photo of the message and stored it on her phone. Frankie then came up to bed and fell asleep next to her. It was then that Shaye grabbed the Celtic dagger that she kept under her pillow and stabbed Frankie in the neck as he slept. She went on to stab him a further 19 times in the chest, and Frankie died from his injuries. Shaye attempted to clean up the crime scene, and her housemate Lauren helped place bin bags underneath his body. Shaye called her other friend and told her that she'd killed Frankie. There's also some evidence that Shaye contacted her ex-partner after the murder, but he denied this. Shaye sent the edited videos of her and Frankie having sex, the ones that made it look as though it was non-consensual. She was using this as the reason as to why she murdered him. She also tried to give herself a false alibi, and she tried to stage his death as a suicide. Meanwhile, Shaye's friend had called 999 and told them that Shaye had said she'd murdered Frankie. The police arrived at the scene. Shaye opens the door in a pink fluffy dressing gown.
Hello? You alright?
Yeah.
What's going on?
Sorry, the dogs.
No. Don't close the door. What's going on?
With what?
Are you Shaye?
I am Shaye.
Right. I've had some kind of strange, interesting call about somebody having had their throat slit.
Okay.
So what's going on here?
As the police enter her home, they find framed pictures of serial killers on her wall. Killers including Myra Hindley, Rose West and Jeffrey Dahmer. The knife was found in the bathroom sink, the one she'd used to murder Frankie. She was arrested, along with Lauren White, her housemate, but all charges against Lauren were dropped. Shaye was seen by a mental health nurse in her cell, and when the nurse offered her a blanket, Shaye said she didn't deserve one, because she'd taken a man's life. In her first 2 police interviews, Shaye answered no comment to questions asked of her, but in the 3rd interview, she hinted at killing Frankie in self-defence. There was no evidence of this. Frankie had no defensive wounds on his body. Forensic teams discovered Shaye had wrapped Frankie in her duvet, which was covered in his blood. Shaye was charged with murder, and after a 5-week trial at Winchester Crown Court, she was found guilty by the jury. During the sentencing, the judge said that Shaye had had a difficult upbringing and that she had been abused, and that he accepted on some occasions Frankie Fitzgerald had sexually assaulted Shaye. During the trial, she had not shown any remorse, though the judge received a letter just before her sentencing where she expressed her remorse and apologised to Frankie's family and children. The judge said this came too little too late and sentenced her to 23 years in prison. Whilst researching this episode, I came across Shaye's Facebook page. Underneath a picture of her were a string of comments from people who looked her up after hearing about Frankie's murder. One of them, a former friend of her, reads, quote, "I don't know how I was so deceived. I find it hard to believe we got on. We had drinks together. I remember being worried about you that night when you showed me messages from him. I don't know how it got to this. And I've just seen Americans are posting videos online about your story. It's gone all over the world. I feel like you've kind of passed away, which is a shame. You could have done so much more with your life. I'll be praying for Frankie's family and friends. I hope you can find a way to live with yourself. I'm glad you didn't drag Lauren down with you in the end too. See you in 23 years. There's a post above that message, and it's a statement from Shaye herself, and it was posted via a friend in May 2025. It reads, quote, "I've recently been made aware of a podcast that talks about my childhood, claiming it to be horrific. I would like to state that this is not true. My parents were not abusive or neglectful. I had a good childhood and was raised in a happy home. However, that being said, I was a challenging child, and despite my parents' best efforts, I never did learn or listen. My parents begged and pleaded with the doctors, social services, and children's mental health teams. This did not help my parents, as I manipulated the situation and made my parents look like the bad guys. My parents have suffered horrific verbal and mental abuse from myself. I stole, I lied, I manipulated, and I broke their hearts more times than I can count. I would also like to state that I did not suffer an addiction to drugs or alcohol as a child. This started as an adult and did not stem from my so-called horrific childhood. For those of you who are making podcasts about me, I have no issue with you using my name for your 5 minutes of fame. I deserve the hate, and I'm already infamous, so it doesn't bother me. All I ask is that you know your facts and not to report false accusations, as these can be dangerous and may have a lasting effect on my living victims. Drugs, alcohol, mental health and domestic violence were a toxic and deadly combination that meant a man was murdered, leaving 2 children without a father and a family grieving the loss of their son. In a statement, Frankie's family said, quote, "As a parent, you never expect to outlive your children. You will do anything in your power to protect them. Frankie was our baby, the youngest of 5 children. He can never be replaced. He was a kind and beautiful person, and sadly leaves 2 children behind that will never get to know their daddy. We thank the jury for their verdict today. To our Frankie, we love and miss you more than anything in the world. Your shining light will always be in our hearts." Thank you for watching. If you found this video interesting, please subscribe for more weekly true crime videos like this. You've been watching Totally True Crime.